So we are all well aware of the situation of one of the Grayzone's journalists. He has recently been released, and he is on his way home as for the time being. Max Blumenthal even tweeted this out. But first, let's hear from this douchebag here at the State Department in regards towards what was going on to a U.S. citizen in Israel.
And does the department have any comment about the arrest of U.S. citizen and journalist Jeremy Loffredo in Israel earlier this month? Last we heard a district court ordered Mr. Loffredo to remain in Israel until October 20th for police questioning. What's his current status?
My understanding is that Mr. Loffredo has left Israel.
Okay.
Ita, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, this is true. So first of all, I think it's important that we hear from one of the main founders of the Grayzone, Max Blumenthal. He has done a lot of great work in regards towards being a independent journalist and breaking and making and sharing groundbreaking stories. So here is a message or tweet from Max Blumenthal, one of the founders of the Grayzone. American journalist Jeremy Loffredo is on his way home after being informally deported by the Israeli police. Following an arbitrary arrest by the Israeli military at the West Bank checkpoint, Jeremy was blindfolded, shackled in a military truck that should not have happened, then held in solitary confinement for 3 days with little food or water. We do invite Max Blumenthal as well as Jeremy Loffredo when they can to be on our show. I'll send an invite out. Hopefully they do see it. But we want to hear from their story, their perspective about what is going on. Israeli authorities had falsely accused him of supporting an enemy during wartime for legitimate reporting he performed for the Grayzone. And by the way, folks, other news sources covered the same story that Jeremy Loffredo covered as well. I'm glad that he's coming back home, but everything that he was subjected to should not have happened to a journalist at all, period. Though 2 Israeli judges ruled Jeremy's reporting did not violate the military censors policy, they gave the police until October 20th, which should not happen, to investigate him. During that period, the police seized and hacked into his phone, confiscated his wallet and passport, and interrogated him repeatedly at a station in occupied territory. When the deadline to wrap up the investigation arrived, the police quit their fishing expedition and ordered Jeremy to book the first available flight out of the country. He was interrogated one final time at Ben Gurion International Airport, then allowed to leave. Jeremy's persecution for publishing factual journalism reflects the paranoid attitude of an Israeli state that is ruthlessly repressing critical reporting in occupied West Bank and besieged Gaza Strip, where it has, again, killed more than 120 Palestinian journalists in just over a year, making it the deadliest conflict for media professionals in the 21st century. Why is this happening? Continuing on, we were extremely grateful for the massive outpouring of support Jeremy received. The pressure generated by our colleagues, supporters, and press freedom organizations played a vital role in ending his wrongful detention. Jeremy will provide a detailed account of the whole disturbing saga as soon as he returns to the U.S., and to which I have to say, we here at Hardlands Media are very glad that the Grayzone has their colleague back. What happened to Jeremy Loffredo should not have happened at all, period. And we will probably be hearing the full story from the Grayzone. So if you're not following them on their social media, following their YouTube channel and all their other platforms that they are on, please do so. They have done phenomenal work speaking truth to power and bringing awareness to what's happening, again, with news stories that corporate media isn't covering. There's, in fact, a follow-up here as well from the Grayzone, which they did make an article indicating that he was arrested. Again, this took place on October 11th. And when he was freed, of course, he was not allowed to leave the country. So the Israeli police were doing their investigation onto him. And more importantly, they were trying to do everything they can to try and keep him, I guess, detained. Now, he is on his way home. That's fantastic. And we are very glad that his arrival will be coming home soon. So, again, folks, we here at Hardlands Media encourage all of you, please support the Grayzone, follow them. And to Jeremy Loffredo, we're glad that you're back. But, again, being subjected to little food, water, and constant interrogation, you have to be made out of strong material. And for that, we give our salute. But yet, this is becoming all too familiar no matter what presidential administration we are under, Democrat or Republican. Those independent journalists that are speaking truth to power always seem to be put on the chopping block. Suppression of speech, suppression of stories. I tell you one thing, though. You won't hear how CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, how their people are going through it, because it's all part of a game. Corporate media knows what needs to be done. Show us a story for 5 minutes and then move on to a cute dog story or something else. Ignore it. Well, the Grayzone doesn't do that. So shout out to the Grayzone. all the best to them and their team, and we are all looking forward to hearing the whole story. But chances are it's not going to be for the faint of heart. So when we do hear it, we'll be hearing about Jeremy Loffredo's harrowing tale, standing up and standing true to his values as a journalist. So keep speaking truth to power, Grayzone, and all the best. So some good news, but again, it's some good news, but not the end of this horrific conflict that we are seeing in Gaza.
It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Whether or not in Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
I don't mean to sound alarmist, but most of what they let you read is garbage. Most of it's designed to warp our minds until subconsciously you find you'll take the time to lick their boots free of grime and wipe their minds free of tarnish. Oil is the centerpiece, a body count of millions is the garnish. So how's it feel to know we funded every carcass? That every year our taxes pay for carpet bombing Gaza under shroud of darkness? Or that we spend enough a year to house and feed each homeless person in the streets on turning families in apartment buildings in the Middle East to bloody craters full of charred garments? And our media is silent at best. At worst, they can find it in themselves to call war crimes clashes and label children burned to ashes terrorists who played a stupid game and reaped the harvest. And every time we try to paint the truth, the news sends their slugs to suck off all the varnish and distort it into something harmless. See, the media will hang you by your feet and keep you half asleep. So yes, I'm here to set you free, but freedom won't be sweet because you'll fall 1,000 feet when I come cut you out your harness. They say those who dream the deepest fall the farthest. They also say that home is where the heart is. But if home for you is Gaza, Netanyahu's got you painted as a target. Perhaps it's not the impact, but it's what you see when falling that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the sound of all those children crying out in those apartments that will hit the hardest. Maybe all those little bodies scattered in the dirt will hit the hardest. Maybe seeing human lives assigned such little worth will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that you're paying for the darkest of atrocities committed on this earth that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that we give 10 million a day to oppressors who possess the kind of Medicare you'll die in debt before you see that's gonna hit the hardest. Maybe then you'll see you've always had more in common with the commoners whose slaughter we fund every day in Gaza than our senators and bosses. Maybe then you'll see our country never had a conscience. Maybe then the retroactive guilt will make you nauseous. Maybe what hits harder than the impact is the act of being conscious, of knowing your complicity and helplessness to try and stop the bloody deeds of Congress. And that no matter who's in office, America preserves its foreign interests by whatever means its greed demands, however monstrous. You see, we'll always need a place to drain our contras. And Biden's got a backup plan should harm befall the Holy Land. Wipe it off the map, he'll draw it back on with an iron hand. He demands an Israel or reasonable effigy to exercise democracy and colonize the Middle East. Regardless of the human cost of phosphorus atrocities, bought and paid with money they rerouted out the budget for the non-essential things like ever making Flint's water clean. So maybe what hits hardest is the day you see this country for its actual priorities. And never more no honest peace attempting sleep. Maybe then you'll look at politicians making speeches like a blood-encrusted beast espousing destiny to empty seats and fellow leeches. As the gauntlet of democracy extends its brutal reach, like a giant wave of trash come to crash on foreign beaches. Maybe build a base, throw a flag down and heavily pollute the region. Rape your ecosystems, gut your fauna and congratulate you on your new allegiance. Oops, we mean alliance. This is something mutual unless you're non-compliant. We stole something crucial on which you can be reliant. So maybe what hits hardest is the centrist saying both sides need to stop the violence. And those would be the very same centrists saying we should all accept police brutality, who hem and haw and clutch their fucking pearls and spend their time condemning riots. But very soon will come the day the centrists all get censored like the rest of us, and pious as they'll try to be, they won't stay quiet. But they'll just end up shouting in the void that they were also quick to render us subscribers. And it will be too late to light the fires. So far away tonight, they burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre. Which is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. Call it foreign interests or American desires. This is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. Far away tonight, they burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre. Call it foreign interests or American desires. This is why your checks weren't all $600